This is a free sample of the book, The Financial Red Pill by Cairo Copeland. The first half of this book is posted right here on YouTube, free for everyone to listen to. If you like this content and want to hear or read the rest, or want to listen to it free of ads, visit reinventideal.com/finance. The book is available on Kindle, paperback, and Audible at reinventideal.com/finance.
Chapter 5. Get Richer by Being an A.S.S. Now that you are aware of the big financial fuck-ups to avoid, the rest of this book will focus now on what are the right things to do. The first thing to do is to start saving. Save early and often. In my practice as a financial planner, I often had the same conversation with every client, and it went something like this. And notice the pattern here. Me: are you saving yet? Them: no, I just started college and I really must focus on school, so I can't even work that much to earn money to save. 4 years later, I'd say, are you saving yet? And they'd say, no, I just graduated college, so I gotta find a job first and then an apartment. 4 years later, I'd ask, are you saving yet? And they'd say, no, I just got engaged, but I'll start saving after the wedding and honeymoon. And 4 years later, I'd ask again, are you saving yet? And they'd say, no, we just found out that we're having a baby, but I'll start saving after the kid is grown and mature enough to not be so expensive. And 4 years later, I'd ask them, are you saving yet? No, we had to buy a house because we're having another kid, but I'll start after we get a little bit of that mortgage paid down. 4 years later, are you saving yet? No, we had to get a minivan because the kids are old enough to be in school now, but I'll start saving after we get a little bit of that paid down. 10 years later, are you saving yet? No, we just sent Junior off to college, but I'll start after the second kid is done with college. And then 10 years later. So, the kids should be done with college, and you should have that house and minivan paid down a little bit. Are you saving yet? And they'd say, holy shit, I'm 58 years old, and I got no money saved. What the fuck do I do? Just as poor health habits compound, and conversely good health habits compound, even small, positive financial changes will do the same. During my financial advisor career, I had clients that were a married couple and had just shown them the formula for fortune. Our next step was to track expenses and look for opportunities where we could find savings. And they signed up for Mint, tracked all their expenses, and the results were very telling. They saw that they were spending too much on eating out and had corrected that quickly. But there was more to the story of their spending. There were little leaks in their savings ship that were holding them back from far greater financial potential. For one, he kept taking the toll road to work, and she kept buying a Mountain Dew from the vending machine each workday. If he could take a different way to work besides the toll road, that's $455 a year, or $38 a month. That gets him a full tank of gas each month. Certainly that would take him further than any mileage he was saving by taking the toll road. And that soda might be $1 a day, and seemingly irrelevant to your long-term financial picture. But how long is the long term? 40 years? $1 a day invested in the market compounded over 40 years adds up to $200,000. So every penny matters. This is a critical step to becoming financially successful. It's not about how much money you make, but about how much you keep. What I tell my clients is that to be successful, they need to be an ass. I don't mean be an ass like a douchebag. I mean A.S.S. to stand for always save something. Be someone that always saves something, even if it's just $1 a day, because you've seen how that can add up over time. Do you want to be a millionaire in your retirement? All you need to do is save $1.50 a day. That's $45 a month, and it will add up to $1 million when invested and compounded in the market for 45 years. So I would strongly encourage you to save as much as you can and be aggressive with your savings. But if on some days you can't find ways to save, then just do the best you can, even if it's only change in your pocket. A good habit is to take the leftover loose change in your pocket at the end of the day and dump it into a savings bucket or a piggy bank or whatever you use to hold these tiny amounts until they get big enough to deposit into a bank account. My point is, always save something, because the small amounts will make all the difference. Ask any personal trainer or dietitian. They will tell you that where people fail in their New Year's resolution diets is not in the big meals of the day like breakfast or lunch or dinner. Many people do maintain their strict diets for those meals, but the snacks they have throughout the day, in between those meals, the sugary drinks they sip on and refill, the little leaks in their disciplined diet is what sets them back and keeps them from reaching their fitness and fat loss goals. The same is true of finance. The little things added up outweigh the big things in their impact. This is an overlooked truth about personal finance, and the key takeaway from this: everyone tends to be very scrutinizing and careful with the big expenditures like a house or a car, home repairs, kitchen appliances, but these are not the items that you have to be the most careful of. It's the little purchases that matter more. The opportunity is not in the dollars, but in the pennies. Now, I'm not saying you should be thoughtless and extravagant with your big purchases, but there's not much you can do about the big expenses in life. Houses and cars will always cost a lot, no matter how hard you bargain. But the little expenses in life, like the soda can or the extra errand, are the ones you have the greatest control over. Finding ways to cut expenses and save is perhaps the best way to increase your investment capital that will go from the income statement to the asset side of the balance sheet. It's even better than increasing your earnings. That's because, for one, you can't control how much someone will pay you. And two, any increase in earnings also means increased taxes. But an increase in savings is not taxable. The IRS never went after anyone for their reduction in spending. This is to advocate minimalism. Much like Aaron Clarey, who has a minimalism course in his book, Bachelor Pad Economics, talks all about minimalism. The point of it is this, is you gotta understand your future is far more important than the present moment. Because right now you're anticipating that future, and at some point you're going to live it. The present moment, you're just currently living it. And if you set your future up for success, you will be happier when enjoying that success in the future, more so than you'll ever be in any present moment right now. Because in the present moment, it's fleeting. So that means that brown rice is just as fulfilling as quinoa. That means some beef and broccoli has the same effect on you as fancy expensive sushi. That means a cheap Android phone has the same functions and can do about 90% of everything that an iPhone can do. That means that a rundown Japanese shitbox car can do 90% of everything that a Lamborghini can do. So look just at what do you need and get by on just what you need, not going after everything that you could possibly have. Further, finding areas to save can be more effective at increasing capital because it allows you to find more capital to put to work for you without currently putting capital to work. Here's what I mean by that. To get $300 a year, that would require an investment of $8,571.43, to be exact, earning 3.5% a year. Now, can you guarantee a 3.5% annual return? I'll tell you what, that's incredibly hard in the fixed income markets at almost any given time in the last 20 years. And also, do you even have $8,571.43 laying around? Probably not. That $300 is more easily attained through saving. Each cent is a sacred acorn with the potential to become a great oak. If you don't have a lot to start with, just set up 5 containers or piggy banks and label them with the 5 account names. With these 5 account names: a freedom account, necessities, contingencies, education, and play. And if you have enough money to meet the minimum balances, start bank accounts. And I strongly urge you set up bank accounts because not having immediate physical access to the money reinforces the purpose of this system. There are even banks that give away free money for opening accounts with them. And here are your 5 accounts and what their purposes are. The freedom account is the one that you will use for your eventual financial freedom. And a lot of times this gets misused and eventually neglected. But here's how to properly use this. Don't save what's left after all bills are paid. Instead, save what is needed from the very beginning. Remember from the chapter on fuck you money and how it described finding your number? That's what should be contributed here. Now, my magic number, if you remember from that example, was 1.375 million. That would allow me to live off of a perpetuity for 40 years of today's equivalent of $55,000 a year. Therefore, I need to save the amount that will allow me to reach that, and reach that by the age that I want to retire. This is a lifelong savings account that is not to be touched till the day it has enough to ensure your perpetuity. For this account, do not use a bank account or a piggy account. Your savings pays you less than 1% interest while inflation is 3%. You cannot let inflation eat up this hard-earned and long-saved money. For this account, what you do is open a brokerage account with a discount broker. All right, that could be Fidelity, Charles Schwab, Interactive Brokers, whatever. And then, once you've deposited the money in there, invest in zero expense ratio mutual funds and ETFs. They are out there. Just call up the brokers and ask about them. They have them. And these funds have no minimum investment required, no minimum repurchase amount, meaning you can put a penny into them, and they cost absolutely nothing to own. There's no fees. Best of all, these funds just track a major market index. They will work just like an index fund. They buy a little bit of each stock on the market until it owns all of them. Now, why am I telling you to do this? I had said earlier that index funds are not a great investment, and if everybody did them, then we're just setting ourselves up here to all fail at once or just be average and mediocre. Well, here's why. As the motor of the world continues and the global economy grows, the total stock market will grow as well. You get to get in on this growth by stuffing all of your extra savings into this account that's invested in a total stock market index fund. Each time you purchase shares of it, you will likely be purchasing with a different amount and at a different price. And this is good because it allows dollar cost averaging to work its magic. Now, dollar cost averaging means that when the price is high, you purchase fewer shares. Thus, that's less shares at risk of a falling market price. When the price is low, you purchase more shares, thus setting yourself up for a big return when they rise in price because you have more shares. Dollar cost averaging doesn't guarantee big returns nor protect you from losses, but it is an amazing tool to put to work for you because it can minimize the impact of falling market prices and maximize the impact of rising market prices. So using one of these zero expense funds is the best way to invest this money because it requires no effort. Using one of these zero expense funds is one of the best ways to invest this money because it requires no effort. No longer do you need to scrutinize a ton of mutual funds to find the best one. No longer do you need to perform fundamental analysis on 6,000 stocks to find the best one because you'll own all of them. To make a great return with these funds, they just require a long time horizon for the buyer. With this being your freedom account, you won't be tapping into it for a long time. Now, one very important aspect of this tool, never sell your fund. Even on days when it looks like the market is crashing and there's no end in sight, do not sell it. If you owned a house, would you sell it when the market value of it is down? Of course not. So why would you do that to your investments? Could this also be a traditional or a Roth IRA? Sure it can. But bear in mind that there are income limitations and contribution limits to them. Since they change every few years, I didn't want to bother with trying to jot them down and disclosing them all here. And as you get further along in life and are able to save larger amounts, you're going to exceed them. And if you're fortunate enough to have a 401k with an employer match, that should be exhausted first before opening any other kind of account on the side, whether it's a retirement account or not. Necessities account. For your necessities, start off by putting 50% of your monthly income into this account. Now, obviously, it should be a checking account. And this account is to pay for things like food, bills, gas, etc. This is also to be used for paying down high-interest debt. If your necessities are not 50% of your income, then put the remainder in your freedom account. Small amounts add up. If your necessities are over 50% of your income, you need to simplify and cut down. 50% is the initial threshold that should be strived for. You want to find a checking account that has no minimum balances nor fees on transfers or bill pay. Honestly, online-only banks will be able to meet this measure, because as you're using this account to do what it's intended to do, you'll be depleting the balance of it each month. NerdWallet.com is the best resource to comparison shop for this account. If you're paid by direct deposit, have it go to this account and transfer to the others the portion they require. If you have high interest debts, you must focus on paying those down first or refinancing them for a lower interest rate. The reason for this is that if your debt interest rate is just 4%, that's manageable. Your savings in your freedom account can earn a higher rate of return than that. But if your interest rate is, say, 17%, that needs to be paid down first because the market cannot reliably return an annual rate of return greater than that. A realistic return in the market is 10% annually. So if I got a 17% credit card, I'm losing money on that each year. And my market investments, if they're just getting 10% each year, still, I'm losing money. What I need is an interest rate on my debts that is lower than what my investment rate of return is. Contingency account. Think of some minor financial setbacks in life. Speeding tickets, red light cameras, chicken shit fines, increases in HOA fees without explanation, and mysterious extras added to the end of a bill. These things are going to come up, so they should be expected, yet they can't be predicted. This account is here to cover that. It allows you to turn a loss into a win, and it also prevents you from dipping into your freedom account for emergencies. We don't want to disrupt that investment plan. So this is your emergency fund, and since they are unpredictable, you should always be saving toward them. Many of my past clients were upset watching their emergency savings do nothing for them in terms of growth. Despite multiple attempts by me to tell them that the money was working for them, it was doing the job of giving them peace of mind, they still protested. I needed to come up with a happy medium between keeping all that money as cash in a savings account and investing it in something with the potential for losses. So my solution was open a Roth IRA invested in short-term bond funds, and then specifically short-term treasuries. And the reason I suggest this is that just because you may need the money unexpectedly, that does not mean you should let it get eaten up by inflation. On this point, I part with many in the financial planning profession. Quite often they say you should just leave emergency money in cash reserves. This, by the way, also goes against the official position of every firm I've ever worked for, which is another reason why I have to use a pen name. But I have 6 reasons to differ with them. 1, I only recommend these funds be used for large emergencies like a hospital bill or a major income repair, not for things like a flat tire or getting your car towed. The former are expenses that clients won't be forced to pay for up front, nor right away, and the latter requires immediate payment before any services are done. For those, I recommend they pay for it with a credit card, as these expenses are usually in the hundreds of dollars, whereas the former are in the thousands. 2, inflation guarantees that the money is losing 3% a year. If the money is not invested, clients are often tempted to put that money to work in the market when times are good. And when they give into that temptation, they do so at the worst possible time, like when the market is at its peak and ready for a correction. I've seen that when clients have their emergency money conservatively invested, they're not too concerned about it not getting the great returns their more aggressive investments are getting, because they understand that it is in fact emergency money and are just glad that it's getting some sort of return. The temptation to put it to work elsewhere is not as great, but when it's doing nothing, it's all too tempting. 3, because getting the money out requires an extra step of liquidating it, clients are now forced to think if what they're experiencing is in fact a true emergency. a lot of times when the cash is immediately available, it gets used for things that are not real emergencies, like last-minute gift shopping. If you forgot your anniversary is tomorrow and still haven't gotten anything for your wife, that sure counts as an emergency. Also, since the money isn't immediately available, it gives the client time to shop around for a better price. Number 4, the only investments I recommend are short-term bond mutual funds with standard deviations of 3 or less, and those are the Treasury mutual funds. These funds, I feel, are most appropriate because they have a modest return of 1 to 2% during the bull market, but they really shine during bear markets. In 2008, many of these funds got returns around 8%, so the concern of having to liquidate these funds at a bad time when the market is down is eliminated, because these funds perform best in bear markets, or bad markets, is what they mean by bear markets. The only time short-term bond funds experience losses is when the stock market is getting astronomically high returns, which I have my clients taking part in as well with their other accounts, so they're not going to cry over locking in a 1% loss. 5, these mutual funds have only a 1 business day settlement time, and since emergencies I recommend clients use them for are ones that don't require immediate payment, they can wait 1 business day to get their money out. And 6, the amount contributed to a Roth IRA is post-tax money and can be extracted from it tax-free. When you're making your contributions to it, you need to track and keep record of them because your broker won't. It will allow you to claim them on your tax return as tax-free return of basis. The contribution amount is the only amount you should ever withdraw in any case of emergency. Never withdraw the earnings, because those will be taxed if withdrawn before retirement. Put 10% of your income into this account each month. Next up is the education account. And for this, I don't mean education like school. I mean personal development of some sort. Contribute 10% of your income to be used for your own education. It could be to buy books, online courses, or whatever you think will contribute to your knowledge. Remember, just like economies, if you are not growing, then you're contracting. And then lastly is the play account. You want to allocate another 10% of your income to this account for you to have guilt-free fun. Whatever you want. Every month, spend it all. And I mean, money was created in order to be spent, so do it. Otherwise, this is going to be a tedious process, and many people are going to tap out sooner than halfway through. Managing your money seems like it restricts freedom, but in reality, it advances it. After all, you are adding to a freedom account that has that name for a reason. So do not focus on the amount of money in each account, because when you're starting out, each will seem minuscule and you'll think, what's the use? What I want you to focus on instead is the habit of managing your money. Some additional advice I have for you. Trick yourself into saving more. One trick to use whenever you're shopping and using a debit card for your necessities and using the debit card for your necessities account, get $5 cash back at the register for each time it's swiped. Then take that $5 and deposit it into your freedom account. This will help it grow faster. And then it will also have you thinking, gee, do I really need to buy this? Immediately start funding your 401k or any employer-sponsored retirement plan and contribute as much as you can, or at least up to your employer's maximum match rate if they have one. Otherwise, you're giving up free money. And never touch this money. You have the Roth as an emergency fund. A big regret of those who later fail to stay retired in retirement is the fact that they treated their retirement savings as an emergency fund. So what I'm saying here is, do not ever take a loan or a hardship withdrawal from your 401k. It practically guarantees poverty in retirement. Don't do it. This is your golden goose and the ticket to your eventual financial freedom. You should fund this even before paying down high interest debt. You see, the debts can be paid for over time, but when you're in retirement, you can't be saving for it while you're paying for it. Therefore, the saving for it needs to start right away. That's the only time I'll tell you to save and invest money before paying down high interest debt. Now, get paying down those high interest debts before saving outside of 401ks. And make the largest payments on it that you possibly can. If the interest rate is greater than 10%, the market cannot reliably return that to you each year. So any return it gives you is still a loss due to the high rate on the debt. It is productive to look at the high rate on your debt as an annual loss, and minimizing that loss will be easier than maximizing any gain in a market you can't control. but you do have control over what your balance is on your debt, so get working on it. And when it comes to spending money, what I always say is experiences are more valuable than items. Now, I wouldn't presume to tell you how best to spend your money in your play account, but I will tell you something that's worked well for me. Whenever I've spent money on a material item, there was an initial burst of happiness that came along with it, but it was short-lived. The happiness had a pretty short shelf life of, 3 weeks. But whenever I spent the money on an experience, something different happened. Dinner with friends, a day at Universal Studios with friends, renting a boat to go fishing with friends, whatever. No matter how many times we did these things again and again, each time was different. Each time created new, fond memories. These memories created a burst of happiness, and every time they were remembered, I felt that happiness again. Those memories lasted a lot longer than the short-lived high from a material item. And many clients of mine made the mistake of putting everything left over into their play account and spending it. Keep its contributions limited to 10%. If there's anything left over after that contribution from additional savings on necessities, or just nothing compelling available for personal development, put it in your freedom account. Everything left over goes to the freedom account in addition to what was already needed for its initial monthly deposit.
Thank you for listening to this free sample of the book, The Financial Red Pill, by Cairo Copeland. If you enjoyed it and want to hear or read the rest, or want to listen to it free of ads, visit reinventideal.com/finance. The book is available on Kindle, paperback, and Audible at reinventideal.com/finance.